and lifted off the earth in a bright balloon painted with the colors of sunrise, yellow, orange, black streaks like tiger stripes, and then simply ceased to exist. No wreckage, no distress call, no body, no goodbye note, just an empty sky where they used to be. The silence that follows is louder than any scream. In the small logging town of Eldenra, Pacific Northwest, Lena Rowe lived inside that silence. She was 39 when they disappeared, now 45. Her hair had turned prematurely silver at the temples, as though grief itself had painted the strands. Every dawn, she still checked the weather app first. Wind speed, cloud cover, thermal columns, the exact conditions that decide whether a hot air balloon floats or falls. She never stopped calculating what the sky might have done to them that April morning in 2019. Hot air ballooning is one of humanity's oldest dreams of flight. The Montgolfier brothers sent the first passengers, a duck, a sheep, and a rooster, aloft in 1783 over Versailles to prove humans could survive the upper air. Since then, balloons have carried joyriders over Napa Valley vineyards, safari-goers above Serengeti plains, and marriage proposals above the temples of Bagan. But they have also carried tragedy. The 1989 Alice Springs disaster in Australia killed 6 when a burner malfunction sent the envelope into flames. In 2013, a Brazilian balloon caught fire midair, killing 8. In 2016, a Texas crash claimed 16 lives after a propane leak. Yet statistically, ballooning remains safer per passenger mile than small airplanes. The National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, classifies most incidents as controlled flight into terrain or loss of control due to sudden wind shear or pilot error. Mechanical failure is rare unless someone makes it happen. Vocabulary spotlight for English learners. Ceased to exist, a dramatic way to say disappeared completely, often used in literature to convey existential horror. Prematurely silver, happening too early, premature equals before the normal time. Silver here describes gray-white hair caused by stress. Idiom, vanished into thin air, from Shakespeare's Othello, means disappeared without explanation, as if dissolved by magic. Thermal columns, columns of rising warm air that balloons ride like invisible elevators. Lena and Daniel Rowe had met in a university aeronautics club. He was the dreamer who sketched impossible balloon shapes. She was the structural engineer who calculated load limits and envelope stress points. They married under a rainbow balloon at sunrise. When Mira was born, they named her after the Sanskrit word for boundary, because she felt like the perfect limit between their two worlds. Skirich Balloons was their third child. Daniel handled client charm and marketing. Grant Miles, Daniel's childhood friend from Tacoma, managed operations, maintenance logs, and finances. Grant was the quiet engine. Daniel was the visible flame. Everyone said the partnership was perfect, until it wasn't. The morning of April 12, 2019, was textbook flying weather. Light winds from the southwest at 4 to 7 knots, clear skies, temperature inversion keeping the air stable. Daniel filed a VFR, Visual Flight Rules, plan with the local FAA office. Takeoff at 7:42 a.m. from the Skirich private field. Expected duration, 3.5 hours. Landing zone flexible, typical for recreational flights. Witnesses saw the balloon rise gracefully, Mira waving from the basket, Daniel giving the burner a short blast. By 8:15 a.m. the balloon was a colorful speck drifting east-northeast toward Eldon Ridge National Preserve, 180,000 acres of old-growth Douglas fir, steep ravines, and very few roads. At 9:03 a.m. Daniel sent Lena a photo via satellite messenger. Mira laughing, wind in her hair, the caption, "Best co-pilot ever." That was the last communication. Search and rescue launched within hours. Civil Air Patrol flew grids. Ground teams combed likely drift paths. Nothing. No envelope fabric snagged in trees. No basket fragments. No propane tanks. The NTSB report 6 months later classified it undetermined probable cause, the rarest and most frustrating category. Lena refused to accept it. She hiked the preserve every weekend for the first 2 years, calling Mira's name until her voice gave out. She kept Daniel's flight suit hanging in the closet, still smelling faintly of propane and pine. She framed the last photo beside Mira's school portrait. Grant stepped in as CEO of Scareach, paid Lena a monthly widow's stipend from company funds, visited every Sunday with groceries and updates. He cried with her at the memorial service. He seemed broken too. Then came the call at 6:17 a.m., 6 years and 3 days after takeoff. Detective Roy Beckett, a hiker's dog, found the balloon.
Buried.
Deliberately. Lena wrote down GPS coordinates with shaking fingers. She dressed in hiking boots she hadn't worn in years. Grant arrived within 20 minutes, silver SUV, calm voice, steady hands on the wheel. They drove in silence toward the preserve, past the ranger station, past the last gravel turnout, into forest so dense the daylight turned green. When they reached the cordoned pit, Lena saw the familiar yellow-orange-black envelope spread across blue tarps like a dead butterfly. The basket lay tipped on its side, wicker cracked, propane tanks half buried. No bodies, but blood smears on the rim, restraint marks on the uprights. A single spent 9mm casing glinting in the dirt. Philosophical teaching. Absence is not neutral, it is an active wound. When someone vanishes without explanation, the mind fills the void with every possible horror and every possible hope. The cruelest part is that both hope and horror keep you tethered to the past, unable to move forward. True courage is not refusing to grieve. It is refusing to let grief become your entire identity. The balloon's serial number plate was still legible beneath layers of soil. SRB 417, the exact registration Daniel had painted himself in gold leaf. Forensic techs photographed it from every angle. Lena stared until her eyes burned. Grant stood beside her, taking his own photos, close-ups of the plate, the basket weave, the torn envelope seams. For insurance, he explained quietly. Lena nodded, numb. She wanted to believe him. She had wanted to believe him for 6 years. Back at her house, Grant insisted on cooking breakfast. Scrambled eggs the way Daniel used to make them, toast cut into triangles because Mira once said squares were boring. While Lena showered upstairs, notifications chimed on Grant's open laptop. She glanced over. What a pretty lady. You deserve her. Perfect, her stomach twisted. She told herself it was nothing. Perhaps Melissa, Grant's wife, had posted vacation photos. But the timing felt obscene. When Grant returned from the porch phone call, he closed the laptop too quickly. Head office needs me, he said. Lena asked to come along. He hesitated a microsecond too long, then agreed. Scareach headquarters smelled of propane, nylon fabric, and coffee. Mia, the new assistant, gave Lena a tour that felt rehearsed and rushed. In the maintenance hangar, Lena asked about pre-flight checklists. Mia's eyes darted. Everything was perfect that day, she said too fast. In the corridor, Lena overheard 2 mechanics. Client moved up to today. Police tomorrow. Get rid of those boxes. Her pulse spiked. In Grant's office doorway, she caught Mia stuffing April 2017 maintenance logs into a discard box. The same logs the NTSB had requested 6 years earlier, logs that supposedly showed all systems green. Detective Beckett's call came while Lena stood frozen in the hallway alcove. Sabotage confirmed. Burner valve rigged to fail slowly. Deflation port compromised. Bone fragments deeper in the pit. Male, mid-40s, consistent with Daniel. We're coming to Scareach tomorrow morning. Grant Miles is person of interest.
Leave now.
Do not confront him. Lena's knees nearly buckled. Grant, the man who held her when she cried at Daniel's empty memorial, who paid her bills when she couldn't work, who brought Mira's favorite strawberry ice cream every July 4th, had murdered his best friend? She watched from a window as Grant handed an envelope, cash, to 2 men in black suits beside a company jeep. Minutes later, a box truck rolled up to the loading dock. Employees loaded identical discard boxes. Lena slipped out a side door, found an unlocked company pickup, keys in the glove box, classic small business habit, and followed at a distance. The truck led her 20 miles east to an abandoned farmstead deep in the national forest. She parked a quarter-mile away, texted Beckett her location, then crept closer through the underbrush. From behind a thicket, she watched two suited men drag a blindfolded teenage girl from the barn toward the box truck. Long dark hair, thin frame. The same slight limp Mira had developed after breaking her ankle at 9 during a soccer game. Lena's knees hit the forest floor. Mira,
Alive.
17 now, changed, but unmistakably her daughter. Vocabulary spotlight. Microsecond too long, an extremely brief moment, used to show subtle hesitation that betrays guilt. Rehearsed and rushed, practiced but performed too quickly, suggesting nervousness or deception. Idiom. Person of interest. Police term for someone under suspicion but not yet formally charged. Historical context. The 2017 to 2022 period saw a sharp rise in reported child sex trafficking cases linked to dark web and private encrypted channels, Telegram, Wicker, custom VIP groups. The FBI's Operation Cross Country and Europol's Impact consistently identified loyal insiders, family friends, business partners, as facilitators in long-term familial abductions turned exploitation. Grant's pattern, initial personal abuse, later monetization, matches documented cases where captors transition from control to profit. Modern relevance for English learners, phrases like the timing felt obscene or pulse spiked are advanced emotional descriptors common in psychological thrillers and survivor memoirs. Mastering them helps you analyze tone in novels, Gillian Flynn, Lisa Jewell, and true crime podcasts. Philosophical teaching. Trust is a bridge built of thousands of small moments. When the bridge collapses, the fall is not just physical, it is existential. Yet the ruins of betrayal can become the foundation of fiercer love, love that no longer needs to be blind. Thought-provoking message. Who in your life have you given a key to your heart without ever checking the lock? Betrayal hurts most when it comes from the person you defended to everyone else. Today, quietly ask, is my loyalty protecting someone who no longer deserves it? Chapter 3. The Farm in the Forest. Lena crouched in wet ferns, phone trembling, texting Beckett. My daughter is here.
Alive.
Blindfolded. Box truck. Hurry. Grant's silver SUV roared up minutes later. He leaped out shouting her name. Lena, I know you're here. His men fanned out, pistols drawn. Grant's voice turned mocking. Your daughter isn't yours anymore. Soon no one will find her. Lena's blood turned to ice. She crawled backward, heart hammering against ribs. A twig snapped. Grant's head swiveled. There you are. Sirens rose in the distance, faint, then louder. Grant cursed. Back to the cars. Move. Engines roared. Tires spat gravel. The box truck and Jeep vanished east. Lena ran toward the road just as police cruisers boxed Grant's SUV. Officers swarmed. Grant spat at her feet as they cuffed him. The company was supposed to be mine. Daniel didn't deserve it. Lena screamed at him until an officer gently pulled her away. 5 miles down the road, the truck and Jeep were already stopped. Mira sat on an ambulance tailgate, blanket around her shoulders, paramedics checking vitals. When she saw Lena, she whispered, Mom, one cracked syllable that contained 6 stolen years. They collided. Lena felt every rib, every knob of spine. Mira smelled of mildew, fear, and the faintest trace of the strawberry shampoo she used at 11. In the hospital, Mira told the story in fragments. The balloon had flown perfectly until the burner coughed and died. They descended fast. Daniel shielded her during the treetop crash. He was bleeding badly. Then Grant and 3 men appeared. Rescuers, they said. They shot Daniel while he begged them to save Mira. They dragged her to the farm, locked her in a storm cellar beneath the barn. Grant abused her first for years. Later he photographed her, sold access through an encrypted channel called Private Collection VIP. Wealthy clients paid thousands per exclusive set. When the balloon was found, Grant panicked, accelerated the handover to an international ring. Today was supposed to be the day she disappeared forever. Vocabulary spotlight. Fanned out. Spread out in a wide pattern, like cards in a hand or search teams. Knob of spine. bony protrusions along the backbone, vivid detail showing emaciation. Idiom: blood turned to ice, extreme fear or shock that feels physically freezing. Historical and modern context: the storm cellar captivity method echoes real long-term abduction cases, e.g., J.C. Dugard, held 18 years in backyard sheds, Elizabeth Fritzl, 24 years in Austrian basement. Encrypted dark web and private telegram channels exploded after 2018 following the shutdown of major darknet markets. Europol's 2024 Internet Organized Crime Threat Assessment notes that loyal insiders, step-parents, family friends, business associates, now account for 18% of identified familial trafficking facilitators in Western countries. Philosophical teaching: evil rarely arrives wearing a mask. It arrives wearing the face of someone you already love. The deepest betrayal is not the act itself. It is the years spent convincing you the monster was a friend. Thought-provoking message: if someone you trust ever makes your child flinch, even once, believe the flinch before you believe the friend. Instinct is older than loyalty. When will you stop explaining away the red flags and start protecting what matters most? Mira slept under sedation while Lena sat beside her, counting breaths. Dr. Patel explained: malnutrition, reproductive tract infection, complex PTSD, possible dissociation. Long-term therapy mandatory. Lena signed every consent form with shaking hands. Detective Beckett arrived with photos. Bone fragments confirmed as Daniel's. Cause of death: single gunshot wound. Execution style: burner valve had been partially disassembled and reassembled incorrectly. Sabotage only a trained technician could perform undetected. Maintenance logs from April 2017. The discard copies showed no anomalies because the originals had been replaced with fakes. Grant had ordered the swap 2 days before the flight. Scarage servers yielded encrypted folders. Hundreds of images of Mira, time-stamped over 6 years, sold through private collection VIP. Payment records traced to offshore accounts. Grant's personal laptop, seized that afternoon, contained chat logs boasting about controlling the narrative and eliminating the face of the company. One message to an unknown contact: she's still useful. High bidder gets first access after handover. The international ring had already wired $87,000 for Mira's transfer. Police intercepted it mid-flight. Lena listened without crying. Tears would come later. For now she felt only cold clarity. Grant had not just killed Daniel, he had erased him from the company's story. Scarich's new website, Post, 2019, barely mentioned Daniel. Grant's name was everywhere: CEO, founder visionary, safety pioneer. He had rewritten history while Lena grieved. Vocabulary spotlight: dissociation, psychological detachment from reality, common in prolonged trauma, feels like watching your life from outside your body. Offshore accounts, bank accounts in tax haven countries, often used to hide illegal money. Idiom: controlling the narrative, deciding how a story is told so others accept your version. Modern relevance: the rise of subscription-based exploitation platforms. OnlyFans clones on dark web, Telegram premium channels exploded after 2020. The 2024 U.S. DOJ report on child sexual abuse material notes that 62% of new dark web marketplaces now use loyal insider recruitment, family members or close associates who already have access to victims. Philosophical teaching: grief can blind us, but clarity is born when we finally open our eyes to the monster we once fed. Justice is not revenge. It is restoring the truth to its rightful place. Thought-provoking message: if rewriting history erases someone you loved, your job is to become the loudest voice saying their name. Who in your life deserves to be remembered exactly as they were, not as someone else edited them to be. Chapter 5: 2 Trees and Tomorrow. 9 months later, Lena and Mira planted 2 olive trees in the backyard. One for Daniel, one for the child Mira had been forced to bury inside herself. Mira attends trauma therapy 3 times a week. She draws violent, beautiful pictures that her therapist calls controlled explosions. Lena returned to part-time structural engineering, safety inspections for wind turbines now. She checks every bolt twice. Grant's trial is ongoing. He faces life without parole. Several employees took plea deals, testified about falsified logs, cash envelopes, the discard protocol. Skirich filed for bankruptcy. The assets will fund Mira's long-term care and a scholarship in Daniel's name for girls in STEM. They speak Daniel's name every day. Mira sometimes wears his old flight jacket, too big, but it smells like him again after Lena washed it gently. Lena no longer checks the weather app first thing. She checks Mira's face instead, for smiles, for nightmares, for signs she is coming back to herself. They are not healed. Healing is not erasure. It is learning to carry the scar without bleeding every day. Some nights Mira wakes screaming. Some nights Lena wakes reaching for a child who isn't there. But they reach for each other now. That is enough. Vocabulary spotlight. Controlled explosions. Metaphor. Releasing pain in safe, deliberate ways instead of letting it detonate randomly. Plea deals. Agreements to plead guilty to lesser charges in exchange for lighter sentences or cooperation. Universal wisdom. The sky can take everything from you. Husband, daughter, trust, future, but it cannot take your choice to stand up again. Love is not the absence of pain. It is the stubborn refusal to let pain have the last word. Final reflection. You do not get to choose what tragedy writes on your page, but you do get to choose what you write next. Will your next sentence be silence, or will it be the sound of your own voice saying never again? Thank you for watching. If you or someone you know is trapped in silence, reach out. National Human Trafficking Hotline, US 1-888-373-7888. Child Help, 1-800-422-4453. In many countries, 24/7 lines exist. One call can change everything. Share this story if it moved you. Someone needs to hear they are not alone. Stay vigilant. Stay human.